Okay, is everybody ready to come back on and turn on your cameras?
Yes.
Yes.
The 261st District Court is back in session.
Okay, may proceed, counsel.
Thank you, Judge. At the break, Mr. Machuca, you told me that I missed something on this chart. What was it?
The thing we didn't go over was sort of third-party confidential information. So this is, being particularly in Willie Saylor's role, he had many conversations with us about people in the community, coaches, athletes. Also, he had multiple conversations with, as a representative of FloSports with coaches and athletes in the community. And so we want to keep all that stuff confidential, and it's called out in the PIIA.
That would be confidential?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna put this down. When did Mr. Saylor first tell you he was gonna go to UNC?
Middle of October.
And what did he tell you about that?
He said that he was looking at and considering very seriously a recruiting opportunity for the University of North Carolina, UNC. And we spoke on the phone about it, whether or not how I felt. I said, if that's what would make him happy. I thought we were losing a good content creator and UNC was getting a really good recruiter, and we had talked and hoped that perhaps we could find some way to continue to work together.
Meaning what?
Meaning, can he still, he spoke specifically, he was really wanted to be involved in the events he helped, establish and run, Flow Nationals, Who's Number One. Also, he would be interested in maintaining a working relationship so he could do rankings and some type of content. That was the hope.
On FloSports?
On FloSports.
Were you concerned that the job at UNC was competitive?
No, I thought it was complimentary, if anything. We know the coach over there. It's a good program. So there's opportunity in that, I thought.
Would that involve taking subscribers from FloSports in any way?
No.
Do you know of any other job opportunity Mr. Saylor had other than UNC and Rokfin?
I don't know.
At that time, did you know that Rokfin had been recruiting him since February of 2019?
I did not.
Action assumes facts, not in evidence.
Sustained.
How do you now know that Rokfin had been recruiting him
Same-
for this time?
Same objection.
Sustained.
As a
Wait. I think the judge sustained.
I
the
sustain the
objection.
objection. She's going to ask you another question.
sorry.
When did you learn about Willie Saylor quitting?
November 2nd, Saturday night, Christian Piles texted me that Willie quit.
And when was the first time that you learned that he was going to Rokfin?
Monday or Tuesday. I'm sorry, I don't remember which day. I walked into the office and I was approached immediately. Here's the content. It's off our site. It's on Rokfin. He's working for Rokfin.
Okay, when you say here's the content, it's off our site, tell me about that.
The ranking set that he was maintaining as a part of our subscription offering was taken down, and it now appeared on Rokfin.
Okay, and how would he be able to do that?
At the time, he still had his credentials and he knows how the content management system worked. And so he got on and took it down and put it on Rokfin.
Let's go back to 160, the PIIA on page 4, paragraph 6, section 6.
Uh-oh.
That's just Mr. Weisrock giving that up. Did it turn out that Mr. Saylor actually returned FloSports information to FloSports when he left?
No, he did not.
Without getting into too much detail, tell me the categories of information that he took with him.
Objection, Your Honor. I'm gonna object, Your Honor. For one thing,
Well, just state the grounds
Lack of
for your objection, Mr. Soltera. Don't need speaking objections. Just what's the grounds for your objection?
sure, foundation, and as a corporate representative a month and a half ago, he testified he didn't have knowledge of the things he wants to talk about now.
Well, I don't know what he said about in his deposition, but it's not clear from what he said just now how he would know the answer to the question. So I'll sustain that objection.
Have you observed that Mr. Saylor has items that he took off the FloSports system?
Yes.
And what do those include?
All
Same
of
objection,
the-
Your Honor, no foundation.
What foundational
No predicate.
element do you believe is missing? I think, Ms. Burgess, the problem is it's not clear to us how your client or how this witness would know whether or not it was taken by Mr. Saylor and so forth. And so it may have appeared, for example, but it doesn't necessarily mean it came from Mr. Saylor or that he took it from. So it's the connection of the dots that I think is the problem here.
He produced it back to us. And so as the corporate rep, Mr. Machuca has looked at what he produced back, what Saylor produced to us compared to what is on the FloSports system.
I would
Your Honor,
object.
if I,
That's not testimony.
So two problems there, Ms. Burgess. One is that I don't know what it is you're talking about that was produced. That's one problem. It's not very specific, and no one can test what you're talking about or what you're saying was produced or not produced. And two, we don't know in what context what you got from him is what Mr. Machuca is reporting that came from Mr. Saylor. So I just don't have enough specificity there. So if you could just ask him,
I'd like to
that would be great.
I'd like to show them, but that would need to be in the AEO or in at least off the internet.
Okay.
Your Honor, we don't believe any.
I think the problem is simple, though. I mean, if he knows something from his personal knowledge, he can tell us what he knows from his personal knowledge. If he doesn't have that personal knowledge, I don't know why he would be talking about it. And perhaps some other witness might be able to do so until at least we can have a chance to sort out these other issues about what you say Mr. Saylor confessed or provided or produced or whatever. I just don't know what he's
Well,
talking.
what we know, sure, what we know is what's on the system at FloSports. And we know what Mr. Saylor still has and uses and admits to still having and using and what he produced back to us. And in order to show that those two things overlap, Mr. Machuca has looked at both of them. In other words, our system still has.
I can't tell from what you're describing what he's talking about. So if that's something
Okay,
that
let me back up.
without live streaming, then fine, let's go talk about that. But I have no idea what the it is, so to speak.
Okay,
right?
let me work on that. then.
Oh, I don't know what he produced. I don't know what he has, whatever. I don't have enough specificity to feel confident that I can rule on that. So if we need to do it offline, we can do that.
I think it would probably be easier just to go ahead and go offline.
Okay. So instead of stopping the streaming and all, starting it back up, I will ask my staff to put us into chambers or into a conference room or something, and send the court reporter in there with us as well. So who needs to go into that room?
Your Honor, I do, and I would like Mr. Saylor to come with us as well. It's his alleged issues here that they're talking about, his spreadsheets. These are his, not theirs, by the way. But I think he needs to be there.
And that's fine. You had us designate those as AEO Saylor, and that's fine.
Okay.
with us. And
So, Ms.
actually, we're not
Burgess,
opposed.
excuse me. So just so my staff knows who to go put where. So Ms. Burgess, Mr. Soltero, Mr. Brutico, and do you need your tech person in there?
Well, we don't, oh, Hank, yeah, we agreed. But what about Mr. Floriani? Why can he not attend?
I don't know. I'm asking so that my office knows who to put in there.
I'm fine with that as long as it's not a waiver of our trade secret for him to see something we consider a trade secret.
Nobody thinks these are trade secrets. We don't consider it a waiver.
Okay?
It
That's true for you as
definitely a
well,
trade
Mr. Brutico?
Yes, it is true that we don't consider it a trade secret.
And you
we
don't consider it any kind of waiver?
By having done this.
All right. So Ms. Burgess, Mr. Soltero, Mr. Brutico, Mr. Floriani, Mr. Saylor, Mr. Weisrott, the tech person, Ms. Dickey, and Ms. Klinkseisen also want to go, as well as I think I said Mr. Saylor and Mr. Floriani. Anybody else?
Yeah.
All right. And is our witness coming?
I'm sorry. One more person needs to be in there. Mr. Bouchard needs to be in there because he's going to help show the exhibits.
I thought Mr. Weisrott was doing that, but that's fine. I don't have any problem with Mr. Bouchard.
He was. It's just these
I have
spreadsheets
a
are a
question
little
about
harder.
whether or not Mr. Machuca is going to be in that room. I would think not. Are you able to accomplish that or no?
He's going to be the one testifying about it.
He's not going to be testifying in chambers. We're going to be talking about whether or not a document can be shown or not, or what, right? Well,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I think he's going to only be testifying in open court, but I don't know what, for right now, I'm still trying to get some clarity about the objection. So
Okay.
Let's start with that and then if necessary, but if you want him to come in, that's fine with me too. I'm just trying to get some clarity so that my office knows who to put where. Mr. Machuca.
We have no objection to Mr. Bouchard. No problem with Mr. Bouchard being there.
Not the question. It's about Mr. Machuca.
Fine.
Fine. I mean, fine.
Okay. All right. Then you don't have to worry about your split screen business. So all those folks can join us in the conference room and we'll otherwise be in recess for those of you following on the live stream. All right, we have left our conference and are back in the main room. We've remained on the record for the entire time, and I've made some rulings. We simply just did not live stream some things that were confidential, but the record continued. We now pick up with the live stream and the continuation of our record, and Ms. Burgess may continue her questions. But I think you might be muted, Ms. Burgess, because I can't hear you.
You make a note to, we've got to deal with the motion to compel basic evidence.
Outline the,
Mr. Soltero, you might try muting yours because I don't know what that comment was about. Ms. Burgess is going to unmute and it's now her turn to ask questions. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Machuca, when Mr. Saylor was at FloSports, how did he keep track of the data that he collected on about rankings?
It was all kept on our G Suite Google Drives.
Okay, and was that password protected?
Yes, it was.
And did that belong to FloSports?
Yes, it does.
What kind of data was maintained?
So his, Google Drive or G Suite, however we term it, it's, represents 8 years of work. All his analyses and notes and rankings and depth charts. There's also, through that same system, he has access to production books and it's just a general, all of his work for 8 years.
Okay, and did FloSports invest in that work?
Yes.
Okay, and have you had a chance to look at that work on the FloSports system and see how many data points are there?
Thousands. I have had a chance. There's, every tab on every sheet, there will be 500 or so different data points. And so if there's hundreds of sheets, 10 tabs, it's just a lot of data. And so if you've been working on that data for 8 years, you certainly want it.
Explain to me how that works with, in particular, high school and college wrestling, how you would track a wrestler to rank.
I'm not really sure. I know that, it's really Willie's craft. He's really good at it, but it's just keeping track of who's who and where they're at and where they're going. And it's just constant note taking and refinement and watching content and watching matches and talking to athletes. And I'm not really sure how he does it. The body of work just represents an 8-year investment on his part for FloSports in building that.
And what is a depth chart?
Just, by weight, how deep I'm not even sure, to be quite honest. It's just,
don't answer if you're not sure about.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Well, I couldn't speak to it very well.
Okay. But are depth charts something that are maintained on the FloSports system?
If it's part of his work, which it was, it should be on his G Suite.
Was Mr. Saylor a full-time employee?
Yes, he was.
And was he compensated for everything he did in wrestling over the course of that 8 years to be for FloSports?
Absolutely, he was.
Okay, let's look at. D60 and D59, if you could put those together, Mr. Weisrod.
While he's pulling those up, I thought I heard you describe them as D59 and D60. That sounds like joint defendants exhibits. Is there any objection to did you want these offered?
Yes, Norman.
Anybody have any objection to defendants 59 or 60 coming in? I need to hear you speak in response to my question about if there's any objection to these two exhibits. I don't hear anybody. I think Mr. Soltero may be frozen.
No, Judge, I was just waiting for Mr. Brutico because I thought he went first and then I'd go second, but I have no objection.
You can tell me in whatever order you want, whether you have objections or not. The order of business has to do with the order of cross-examining and direct examining and argument, not objections. Mr. Brutico, any objection to 59 or 60 of the defendant's exhibits?
No objection.
Both 59 and 60 are admitted. May proceed.
Mr. Machuca, have you seen these on these two items? One was on Flow Wrestling from Mr. Saylor, and then the other was on Rokfin for Flow Wrestling. I mean, on Rokfin by Mr. Saylor.
Yes.
Okay. And what did you learn about the rankings themselves?
He's doing 2021 big boards on Rokfin, and he was doing the same thing on Flow Wrestling.
Okay. And let's look at, can we go to, hold on just a moment. Are these the ones that he took down?
I believe they are, yes.
Okay, let's go to 132. Oh, wait, yeah, 132, F132. That's not what, Mr. Weisrod, that's not what I have down for 132. Katie, that I have the tweet, with an asking tweet, salary tweet, this one, F132.
That was the exhibit that I had for F-132.
Okay. Let me just ask you a question without the exhibit. Did Mr. Saylor tweet out information about FloSports salaries?
Yes,
Okay, and tell me about that without telling me the substance of it.
he just tweeted out that one person is making as much as another person, and have, you know, at the people in question. Does that make
And-
sense?
Well, okay, so, and what was the impact on FloSports when Mr. Saylor tweeted that out?
It was upsetting to the team.
So Mr. Westwright, it's 130, D 131, F 131. And I move for admission of F 131. This is a redacted version of the original tweet. The original tweet is at F 810, but I don't want to put it up at the, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't want to put that up on the screen.
Your Honor, under optional completeness, I would like F.
Hold on. I just want to be clear that I know what you're offering. Are you offering plaintiff's exhibit number 131?
131 as well as 810, which is the unredacted version.
I'm sorry,
but
as
we
as-
do
I-
not
I'm
approve-
sorry. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the number of the
Oh.
other.
The unredacted version is F 810.
810,
Yes,
an unredacted version of the same document?
yes, Judge.
Okay, why do we need, so I'm confused. If you want to offer 810, why do we need the 131? And if you're not offering 810, then I get that, but I'm confused as to whether or not you're offering both, one of them, what? So what
I'm
what
offering,
do you want to come into evidence?
sure, I would like 810 to come into evidence. I would like F 132 to be a demonstrative that we can use on the screen so that we don't repost the offending salary information.
Okay, now I'm really confused because at first I heard 131, now I'm hearing 132, so which
Oh,
is,
I'm sorry. I said it wrong. So we want to offer F 810. We want F 131 to be the demonstrative that's redacted.
all right. So is there any objection to the document that's being offered into evidence marked as plaintiff's exhibit 810?
No, Your Honor, and we would like Your Honor to have 810 during this questioning, the unredacted
All
version.
the exhibits, Mr. Sotero, so not to worry. Do you have any objection,
Okay.
Mr. Brudico, to exhibit number 810?
We only object to it being marked as redacted. We believe that it doesn't.
810 is not redacted. 810 is an unredacted version. Do you have any objection, either of you, to plaintiff's exhibit 810? Yes or no?
No, Your Honor, not to 810.
No objection.
All right. Plaintiff's exhibit number 810 is admitted. Now, Ms. Burgess, you have the floor.
Tell me about the Mr. Saylor's tweet about Ohio State.
Around November 1st or 2nd, Willie Saylor tweeted out, something about calling it, he made a tweet about Ohio State. I'm not sure which one is what you, I'm sure you want to speak to it, or
Was there something that that was wrong with what he did there?
yeah. So he was tweeting out, what's the deal at Ohio State? And this is on the eve of us going to Ohio State and producing content and events and just other work. You know, the coach was not pleased being sort of called out like that. So Christian Piles called up Willie Saylor and said, take that down. You know, this is going to be hurtful to us. The coach is unhappy. We're about to take a trip there and do content. And it was then when Willie said, you know, quit.
Let's go, Mr. Weisrod, to F796. After Willie Saylor left, let me ask you, we move for admission of F796.
No objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
Plaintiff's Exhibit 796 is admitted.
Did you tell me what this is?
This is Mr. Saylor's, you know, video explaining why he left Flo on the Rokfin site.
Okay, and what is he wearing there?
A shirt that says the greatest mind in wrestling.
And is that a moniker that was developed at FloSports?
Yes, it was.
Do you know where he is?
I don't know where. I don't know where he is now.
Okay. Did you watch the video?
Yes.
And did FloSports have any problems with that video?
Yes.
What were they?
It's the video is basically his announcement that he is officially not with Flo and he is competing, and he calls attention to how we do business and how he will do that business differently over here. So he is competing with us, but he's making a marketing difference, a value prop that's different. And this is I'm competing right now. Come over here with me. I'm going to be different because I know what they're doing. I'm doing different over here. And this is obviously competing, and he's using how we do business to his advantage.
Okay. And then was it around the same time that he also took rankings off of FloSports and put them on Rokfin?
Objection leading.
Okay.
And it assumes facts, not evidence.
The objection was sustained.
Mr. Weisrod, would you pull up F142 and F125? Oh, there. What do you mean say it? I don't understand. So page 1 and page 2 of this one?
Yeah.
Okay. And can you identify these, Mr. Machuca?
These are ranking sets created by Willie Saylor on Flow Wrestling site.
Okay. And I move for admission of F142 and F125.
No objection, Your Honor.
Still looking at them, Your Honor. No objections.
Both
And
exhibit
Mr.
125 and 142 plaintiff's exhibits are admitted.
Mr. Weisrod, would you take us to the second pages of those? Okay, and are these the rankings that Mr. Saylor put up on Rokfin?
Yes, they are.
Did he later admit that he had taken them down from FloSports?
Yes, he did.
Your Honor, object to that. Object to that foundation.
And
Sustained.
object leading, and also object that we're not given
I
a.
have already sustained the objection. So
No.
let's move to the next question. The
Your Honor,
objection,
I'm asking for an instruction to the witness to allow us time to object, please.
I don't know how to do that, Mr. Brudico. What is he supposed to do? Wait before he just looks around at the screen to decide whether or not you're going to object? I don't think that's how this works. So you make your objection. I will rule on it. Right now, I've sustained this one. He will not answer this question. Ms. Burgess will ask the next question. However, Mr. Machuca, if you hear counsel start to utter the word objection, stop your testimony until I've heard their objection. Otherwise, if you don't hear them utter a word, keep talking so that we can continue to get through the testimony efficiently. He does not have to wait for anybody to look around to see if they're going to object. All right. But if you hear them say the word objection, stop talking until I've had a chance to rule on it. Do you understand, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Burgess, you have the floor.
Thank you, Your Honor. If let me ask a better question. Hold on just a second. Back to that one. Let's talk about Mr. Saylor's options, stock options. What year was your current stock option plan put in place?
I believe in 2014.
And Mr. Weisrod, can you show F64? I move for admission of the stock option plan F64.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection.
Admit it.
When an employee gets stock options at FloSports, do they all agree to this plan?
Yes,
And under this, how long after you quit do you have to exercise your options?
90 days.
During that 90 days, can the board revoke those options?
Yes, they can.
Did they do that here?
Yes, they did.
Let's go to page 2.1D. I think it goes on to page 3 as well. Actually, let's start with page, sorry, Mr. Weisrod, can we go to page 21, 14.2? And can you put the second part of that up too? Are you able to do that?
Unfortunately, I can't show the 2 pages on top of each
Okay,
other.
just show the second page then, or the second page portion of it, please. So can FloSports board revoke options for conduct that takes place during that 90 days if the options have not been exercised?
Yes, they can.
And do they do that based on a definition of cause?
Yes, they do.
And if we could go back to page 2.1D. Oh, so you can't see the whole thing at the same time, but maybe we'll start here. Okay, and has just read through both pages for me.
Your Honor, I'd object. The document speaks for itself. I think she's trying to get a witness to read the document.
Oh, not out loud. I was gonna have him review it.
I think she was asking him to read it to himself.
Okay.
Was-
Okay, and so tell him when you're ready to move to the next part.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Please do. Did Mr. Saylor commit a material breach of his employment or service agreement?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and did he use or disclose FloSports confidential information?
Yes, he did.
Did he take any act that had a material detrimental effect on FloSports' reputation or business?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and if you'll go to 3.3F. Oh, I think you have to go back to 3.3 and show the first part and then show that, but can you look at F for me? And so is it within the board's discretion to cancel those awards?
Yes.
And let's
Objection,
go to
that's legal conclusion, Your Honor.
She's just asking about his opinion and his understanding of the agreement as the corporate representative, or as the corporate, and a corporate officer, I should say. Go ahead.
Let's go to 3.1. Take a second to read that. Okay, and so does the board have the ultimate decision to make a binding and conclusive decision about that?
Yes, they do.
Let's go to F883. Can you identify this document?
This is the notice of stock option grants.
Okay, and is it signed by Willie Saylor?
I think that's his signature, yes.
I move for admission of F883.
No objection.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay, and
Hang on.
Mr. White,
It's admitted.
Mr. Weisrod, can you pop out that last paragraph that says by their signatures below? Is this where he agreed to abide by the plan?
Yes.
Let's go to F884. Okay, and did the board of directors revoke those options on January 10th, 2020?
Yes, they did.
I move for admission of F884.
No objection, Your Honor.
Objection.
884 is admitted.
And is this after the court entered a temporary injunction on January,
Okay.
I think, 4th and then 6th?
Objection
Yes.
leading.
Sustained.
Just
When was the temporary injunction entered?
First week of January.
And did that injunction determine that there was a probable right of recovery?
Yes.
And you can take that one down. Let's talk about competition. Let's go to F830. Okay, I'm gonna need. Can you identify this document?
This is an email exchange between Willie and myself, Mr. Saylor and myself, discussing, we're talking about his bonus structure and how we're going to incentivize his salary going forward.
I'm gonna actually pull that down, Mr. Weiserod, because it's actually marked AEO, so I don't want to have it up there. Do we have a copy of that you can look at? Let me see. What's that? What? Oh. Judge, my client is asking for a bathroom break. Can we have 5 minutes?
Well, I was gonna try to go a little longer, but if there's a need to go now, we'll just take our afternoon recess. The court reporter won't be able to go all the way till 5 o'clock, given the fact that we started at 2:15. That would be too long. We would have to take a break anyway. Let's just take it now. We'll pick up again at 4 p.m. We'll be in recess until then.
Thank you, Judge.